If you've been playing Monster Hunter World for some time, you're probably familiar with the Elemental Master and Bringer of Destruction, Alatreon. Even invoking his name instills fear in all but the greatest of hunters. You've probably also heard that you're going to need to get a hold of some really good ice elemental weapons and some really good fire elemental weapons. This is due to the elemental state Alatreon will be in when you begin the quest. The majority of the quests will have Alatreon starting in the fire state, which you're going to want to lock him down into, meaning you really want the ice weapons. You're still going to want to have an excellent fire elemental weapon for the one that he starts in ice state for. I'm going to go over some really accessible options for you to be Alatreon ready without necessarily having to devote the time to do Kulve Taroth or Safi'jiiva sieges. I'm Lighted Up Dan, and on this channel we cover action RPGs, roguelikes and MMOs, including loads of Monster Hunter World, I'm sure you've noticed. Trying to demystify the game and remove some of the overwhelm that the Monster Hunter franchise is typical for is kind of one of my things. I've done a bunch of event roundup videos going over fantastic must-do events at all stages of the game. Definitely check those out if you haven't done so yet. And as a really quick side here, folks, over 90% of the viewers are unsubscribed to the channel. Despite there being an overwhelming majority of returning viewers, it would mean the world to me. If you enjoy the videos, do subscribe. And with that said, let's get to it. The Last White Knight is a 6-star MR24 event, pitting you up against a tempered Frostfang Barrieth in Hoarfrost Reach. You're going to want to run this event to get Frostfang tickets, which you can then use to craft the Frostfang Barrieth gear. These are going to be our awesome high elemental damage weapons of choice. Frostfang Barrieth is a variant of the original Barrieth, very similar, but a little bit more icy. Being a tempered version, it's going to have more HP and deal more damage, so just be extra cautious. Coming into the fight with 20 or more ice resistance is going to do you a solid. Not only will you take less overall damage, but you'll also be invulnerable to Ice Blight. While elemental resistance may not trump defense, it's still very useful. Alternatively, 3 Blight resist will see you through as well. The monster is very weak to fire and a little bit weak to thunder, so any weapons with those elements that you bring along are going to be extra useful. It's a very dangerous monster which combos its attacks in quick succession, both by rooting you in place with its ice breath, followed by a smash, or doing sequential attacks back to back. If you're able to break its front 2 arms, you will cause the monster to stumble every time it leaps around the level. This is one of the most effective methods to combat Barrieth and Frostfang Barrieth as well. Doing this makes your fight so much easier and smoother. You can also get multiple part breaks off on the head, which are going to give you additional damage windows. Generally, dealing lots of damage to the head is a great idea. It's very weak to damage on the head from all damage types. Depending on where you are in the level, you can also utilize the ledges to try to get jumping attacks for mounts, again giving you another window for you and your squad to get loads of damage out on the monster. As always, make good use of your clutch claw, getting wounds where possible, particularly on the wings and on the head, and make sure whenever the monster isn't enraged that you're getting those beautiful wall bangs. Not only will there be a spike in damage against the parts on its head, allowing you to get those breaks even easier, but you'll have that additional damage window to get in there and really dish out the pain. Once you're done being cold as ice and willing to sacrifice, you're going to be rewarded with a Frostfang ticket, hopefully a few even, and the chance to get some sealed face stones as well as just like a little bonus thrown in. That's absolutely awesome. Taking these over to the smithy, you can direct craft these fantastic Rarity 11 powerful ice elemental weapons. You should get everything that you need to craft these weapons from that one single quest alone. These have good raw damage, purple sharpness, a massive amount of white sharpness, 15% affinity, and a huge amount of ice elemental damage, which is going to be essential for your encounter against Alatreon. For your quick, easy to make fire weapons, we're going to face off against some master rank Anjanaths. If you've got any good investigations with a lot of gold rewards, this is going to be the perfect opportunity to whip that out. Anjanath is likely one of the first walls you encountered when you first started Monster Hunter World. It is not an easy fight at all. It is, however, super badass. I mean, it's like this giant pink T-Rex. So cool. Sorry, I just really like Anjanath. As a fire elemental brute wyvern, it will inflict fire blight against you if you you don't have 20 or above fire resistance, or 3 blight resistance instead. In terms of blights, fire blight isn't that much of a big deal particularly, but it can be a bit of a pain, so if you want to avoid it, you know how to. It does have a bunch of very dangerous fire attacks too, so the fire resistance is going to overall just help. It may not trump defense, but it's useful. It's very weak to water and pretty weak to thunder and ice as well, so you've got a lot of options with different elemental weapons you can bring to do some extra damage, including the Frostfang Barrier weapons you've just made. Maybe give those a spin like I was. It's very vulnerable to all types of damage on its head. Focusing your attacks there to deal a lot of damage and to build KO is going to be super useful. Try and get part breaks wherever you can, which will give you opportunities when the monster flinches or topples for you and your team to get out a ton of damage. By keeping near the monster's legs and its belly, you'll be situated in such a way that should help you avoid a bunch of attacks. Depending on what weapons you're using, try your best to get mounts off ledges or otherwise, and of course utilize your clutch claw wisely. It may not be an iceborne monster, but it's still going to be super useful. Wound its parts for extra damage, and go for wall bangs whenever the monster isn't enraged. Use any environmental traps that you can depending on where you're fighting it. Ancient Forest has a bunch of vines, which is super useful, and you can of course lure Anjanath into a bunch of turf wars as well. Turn its aggression against it. Once you're done getting roasted more than a well done steak, you will be rewarded with your master rank Anjanath parts. Grab those, take them to the smithy, and we're going to make ourselves an Anjanath master rank weapon. This will come in at rarity 9, and then we're going to want to upgrade it once more into the rarity 10 version. This has a decent amount of raw and an incredible amount of fire elemental damage. We're not too keen on the blue sharpness and the minus 20% affinity, but in terms of relatively accessible, good, high fire elemental damage weapons, this is for sure the way to go. If you want to get stuck into Kulve Taroth or Safi'jiiva, be my guest. That's absolutely no problem. You're going to get fantastic weapons that way too. But in terms of accessibly quickly getting kitted out with fantastic ice and fire elemental weapons, the Frostfang Barrier gear and the Anjanath gear is the way you're going to want to go. And if you are going to look at different options, maybe upgrading some different weapons along different upgrade trees, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure that they've got a decent amount of raw damage, and really importantly that they've got a very high amount of elemental damage. I cannot stress enough how pivotal that is to the Alatreon fight. But whichever way you go, whatever weapons you get, it's time for Alatreon. What could go wrong? Thank you so much for watching, folks. I hope this was useful and has given you some good things to aim for to get ready for your Alatreon fight. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, over 90% of the viewers are unsubscribed to the channel, despite there being a large amount of returning viewers. It would mean the world to me. If you do enjoy the content, do subscribe, and if you want to join the recently opened community Discord, we all group together and play some Monster Hunter World. We would love to have you there. I do also live stream on my Twitch channel with open viewer lobbies, doing all sorts of different hunts. If you're interested in that, you can follow me on Twitch. All of these important links will be in the description. But until next time, I'll see you in the new world.